So here I'm just continuing with the discussion of part 5 that I began in the first video. Act 5, of course. Theseus is prepared to forgive the play its faults. Hippolyta, at line 85, so this is Act 5, Scene 1, page 74, line 85. Hippolyta says, "I love not to see wretchedness overcharged, as duty is in his service perishing." So Hippolyta doesn't want to be painfully embarrassed for the people who are putting on this play, that they're overcharged, that is, that the duty has been put on them that they can't fulfill. They're small, wretched people, and we should at least give them the dignity of their lives, not expect them to do something beyond them, and it would be painful to see them embarrassed in that way. So Theseus is willing to see a bad play because he's willing to take it not for what it is, or the spirit in which it's offered. Hippolyta doesn't want to see a bad play. She doesn't enjoy seeing other people embarrass themselves. Theseus expands the rest of page 74, his speech from line 89 on. His general idea is that simplicity is the best way to render your duty or to offer anything. That he sometimes awes the people that he has to talk to. They're so impressed by his heroic greatness and the difference between their little stature and his great standing, that they make a mess of everything and can hardly speak at all. And he takes that for a sincere compliment and credits it for what it wanted to be rather than what it was. So at line 99 to the bottom, "Trust me, sweet," so he's speaking to Hippolyta, saying, "Trust me. Out of this silence yet I picked a welcome." So they couldn't speak, but I knew they meant to welcome me. I took it in that spirit. "And in the modesty of fearful duty I read as much as from the rattling tongue of saucy and audacious eloquence." So they made a bad job of it because their duty was touched with fear. They were so impressed with me. There's the opposite. People who speak well, saucy, people who think well of themselves, audacious, people who get out of their natural station and are prouder than they ought to be given what they are. Theseus will take that as bad, even though it's smooth and polished and the people speak easily what they intended to say. So Theseus sometimes takes things in the opposite manner in which they're offered. They're offered one way. One duty is offered to him smoothly and easily and eloquently. And another so awkward it hardly comes out at all, but he assigns an opposite meaning to both of those, and he's prepared to use that standard for this play. He'll take it for what it meant to be. The play does indeed turn out to be terrible, and there are different reactions. The young men, the young husbands, do laugh at it and come very close. They'll probably go over the line of insulting the actors by being openly contemptuous of their terrible production. Theseus keeps to his attitude toward the play. We see that at line 215 here on page 78, Hippolyta has had enough of this play. She really rejects it. "This is the silliest stuff that ever I heard," she says. So she just tells it like it is. Theseus says, "The best in this kind are but shadows, and the worst are no worse if imagination amend them. So the best play there is only a shadow. So the silliness goes along with it, because you can't do better and make them real. They're always light and imitations. And the worst are no worst if imagination amend them. And so if you let your mind, if you allow it free to agree and enjoy, if you let your mind make small adjustments for what there should have been, then even the worst play is enjoyable. And Hippolyta says at that point, so line 218, here, page 78, still Act 5, Scene 1. It must be your imagination then, and not theirs. So Hippolyta pushes back. And if you enjoy it because you allow your imagination to fix the mistakes, then it's you putting on the play, and not the people that you've come to watch, the people who are actually acting and producing the play for you. Theseus, if we imagine no worse of them than they of themselves, they may pass for excellent men. Theseus is in a gracious and generous mood. This is perhaps how he is as a leader. He's willing to accept the best of people, and to think of others as they think of themselves, rather than put them down. And all of this should spark some reflection in ourselves. What's a play worth? And then, of course, since the play depicts love, what is love worth? And this is, of course, the question that we've been with all along. And it seems we could take Hippolyta's answer that it's the silliest thing to fall in love. And the young men seem to agree with that in some way. But Theseus says that if you allow your imagination to look for the best rather than the worst, then you can approve it. So what we have here is a play inside a play, which gives us a chance to look not just at the players, not just at the production, but also at other people doing what we're doing. We're watching a play, but we're also watching other people watch a play. And we see that they have different attitudes toward it, and that this can affect the meaning of the whole, not the facts about the play itself, because they're all watching the same thing and we're watching it too, and everyone can agree that it's terribly done, that the poetry is awful, the portrayals are completely amateurish and unconvincing, everything about it as a play is wrong, but then there's still a dispute about what attitude to have toward it. And all of this happens at the end of the whole play of Midsummer Night's Dream, which is about love. Even the play within a play is about love. And we've had all along the question of whether the loved object, the person you love, fulfills the feelings you have about that person. And so, in a way, we face the same question again. Lovers will never quite fulfill the strongest demands that love makes. That Lysander, suddenly in love with Helena, says that he'll go through fire to be with her. And who would be worth that? No one could be, even though we presume that Helena is well worth loving. She can't fulfill the demands of love. And so the lesson of the play is instructive. The people for whom the play is good are the generous people, particularly Theseus, who's willing to see the best in it and in his imagination fix what's worst. And love may demand this same kind of generosity. Other people. Hippolyta is less willing to play along with the play, although at one point she seems to admit, I think sincerely, although you could play her statement as ironic, but she seems to admit sincerely that she is moved by the sadness of Pyramus' story. And of course it is a sad story, even though it's not sad here. But that's the whole point. Things can be one way or another depending not on what they are at that bottom, but how they're portrayed. So Romeo and Juliet is genuinely sad, and this play is genuinely ridiculous, but in some way they're the same story and the same events. And Hippolyta goes through a common experience. Even a badly done drama can move you. Even a poor work of art can reach your emotions. And Theseus seems to be out of the game. He's already willing to be moved before it starts, and even as he's got good reason to believe that it's quite bad. Now, if we apply this lesson to love, what might it mean? That perhaps a true lover is going to have the Theseus attitude of generosity rather than the attitude of the young husbands, Demetrius and Lysander, who just think the play is funny and are willing to mock it. They're going to enjoy it by sitting in the audience and loudly making jokes about how terrible it is. That's not very gracious, and perhaps it is a bad sign for the sort of husbands they're going to be, that they might take a good lesson from Theseus. The proper attitude for fulfilling your love would be rather one of generosity. And maybe they learn a little. The possibility that they might learn it might help to explain why we get this play where it is, right? In the time between the wedding ceremony and the actual start of the marriage. Perhaps this is the proper instruction. There will always be a perspective from which the person you love does not seem to fulfill your wishes, does not even seem lovable. But the best way to honor love is with a spirit of generosity in yourself.